WWE loves Roman Reigns. Even me saying that will send people into a frenzy as they reach for their keyboards to frantically type out why Vince McMahon and friends are out of their minds. But a fact's a fact. The man is already a 3-time WWE champion, and the company has utter belief that he can be a franchise player for a long time to come. That's not always the way with those who have bestowed the honor of world champion, however. In fact, sometimes the man placed on top gets treated worse than Zack Ryder. I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 world champions WWE never believed in. Number 10, Kane. Kane is awesome. Well, maybe not modern day Kane. He's more like that weird uncle you try and avoid at Christmas. Since he debuted in 1997, though, the Big Red Machine has only won WWE's main prize twice. That's a pitiful amount considering the man's size. Usually that's a lot for at least a handful of runs. The first came in 1998 when he beat Stone Cold Steve Austin under dubious circumstances at that year's King of the Ring. While the next wasn't until 2010 when he won and cashed in Money in the Bank on the same night. He did win the ECW title once too, but let's face it, that's the equivalent of winning a child's spelling bee at the age of 40. Management obviously believed in Kane given how long he's been around. They just didn't think he had the chops to make it as a long-term champion. Number 9, Dolph Ziggler. You know why Dolph Ziggler will never be used as a proper top-end world champion? Because his name is Dolph Ziggler. I mean, if that's not a crutch from the start, I don't know what is. You may as well call him Derek Bubbles. The show-off is a 2-time winner though, mostly thanks to being an absolute workhorse and having tremendous fan support. Go and watch his second title win. That's what you call an evasion. Ziggler was never given the chance to feel like the man mind. For starters, his first reign began and ended in the same night. That's not the message you send to the crowd if you're taking someone seriously. On top of that, he hasn't won it since 2013. Number 8, Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero beating Brock Lesnar to become WWE Champion at No Way Out 2004 is one of the most emotional moments in the history of wrestling. The very definition of being rewarded for your hard work, Latino Heat's rise to the top could be shared and appreciated by everyone. In short, it was excellent. Unfortunately, while the entire wrestling community believed in Eddie, Eddie didn't believe in himself. As Chavo Guerrero Jr. talked about on Chris Jericho's podcast, Eddie wasn't convinced he was the right man for the job, constantly worrying about how his success was affecting business. Word is, this did cut his reign short by a few months, and just as he was on the cusp of a second one, Eddie tragically passed away. It's a tale that's still heartbreaking over 10 years later. Number 7, Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is proof that if you believe enough, dreams do come true. Well, that and another wrestler walks out the company, and someone else returning gets unexpectedly booed out the building. But all that aside, have faith in yourself, and you will go far. This is the Daniel Bryan story. A man scheduled to fight Sheamus at WrestleMania 30 before the fans, and numerous twists of fate, steered him to the main event. As much as WWE would like to say otherwise though, this was never the plan. Orton versus Batista was meant to close the show. Bryan just fell into place after he couldn't be ignored anymore. And let's be honest here, if he hadn't have gotten injured, it seems likely he would have been on the end of Brock Lesnar's beating at that year's SummerSlam. Look at his other title runs too. At Money in the Bank 2011, he was the only option after Mark Henry got injured, and then Sheamus mutilated him for said championship in 18 seconds at Mania 28. His other 2 reigns were also just flash in the pan. Number 6, Jeff Hardy. No matter what Jeff Hardy does, his popularity is nuts. Even his infamous TNA match with Sting, where Jeff was less than fit to wrestle, hasn't tarnished his following. He's more bulletproof than Kevlar. Arguably, he was never hotter than in 2008, where his ascent to the top reached its peak. Finally winning the big one at that year's Armageddon, Hardy even managed to grab it twice more before he left the WWE in 2009. None of these could be considered prominent, however. Each was over faster than Zack Ryder's TV time, as those behind the scenes worried about Hardy's drug issues. Even then, would the Machine have properly gotten behind the Enigma? Unlikely. Number 5, Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho post-2007 was not the same as Chris Jericho beforehand. When he returned to the WWE and went on one of the best heel runs in recent memory, no one could argue he wasn't a worthy champion. He was anything but after his 1999 debut, however. Falling off the map almost entirely after The Rock ate him alive on Raw, it was during his run as Undisputed Champion where it was obvious what WWE thought of Y2J. Sure, he beat Stone Cold and the Great One in the same night, but he was then booked to look stupid week in, week out. Nearly all his wins came thanks to interference. The icing on the cake came at WrestleMania 18. Jericho may have been in the main event, but his treatment up to that point, and having to follow Hulk Hogan and The Rock, just underlined where he stood in the company. Would never happen to Roman Reigns. Number 4, CM Punk. No one wanted CM Punk to succeed. It's a point the man himself has talked about, his only advocate, ironically, coming in the form of Paul Heyman. Much like Daniel Bryan too, Punk's rise to the top came through a fortunate turn of events. The first of these came when he won Money in the Bank in 2008. Only he wasn't meant to win Money in the Bank in 2008. That nod was Jeff Hardy, but after a wellness violation, there was only one straight-edged man who made sense. After he actually lifted the World Heavyweight Championship, though, he was essentially defending it in the mid-card. Jericho, Batista, John Cena and Shawn Michaels were all treated as the real stars, Punk's only shining light coming in 2009, where he was allowed some freedom on SmackDown. And when was it that he finally broke through? When Punk threatened to leave. Funny how that all adds up, isn't it? Number 3, Christian. Do you even remember that Christian was world champion? We wouldn't blame you if you didn't. For one, he never pinned anyone to win a title. In fact, he won his first in a ladder match, and his second because Randy Orton punched him in the balls. If that doesn't tell you what WWE thought of him as a top guy, nothing will. It's a shame, too. Christian had plenty of fan support, especially in the mid-2000s. By the time he did get his shot in 2011, it was 2 pathetically orchestrated reigns. In case you still need more evidence, Vince McMahon once had the idea to put a blue dot over Christian's face every time he was on TV because he didn't like it. Seriously. Number 2, Jack Swagger. While it's hard to even think now, at one point, Jack Swagger had something to him. With his weird gangly body and ECW winning streak, it was absolutely believable that he may be a future star. This took another step forward where he not only won Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 26, but cashed in to win the World Heavyweight Championship the following week. And then it all fell apart when he lost to everyone. I literally mean everyone too. Big Show, Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton, John Morrison, hell, I think I even got a win over Swagger at one point. He eventually lost the belt to Rey Mysterio, and it's been downhill ever since. Number 1, Rey Mysterio. And on the note of Rey Mysterio, a discussion point that rears its head whenever conversations about underbooked champions comes up, Mysterio was the ultimate underdog with one severe problem. He never won. The whole point of an underdog is that despite having little chance of winning, they find a way to do so anyway. If you keep staring up at the lights, you're just a loser. Rey never had any true help from the powers that be, though. His win at the Royal Rumble 2006 didn't close the show, and neither did his title win at WrestleMania 22. Yes, he was champion, but he was never presented as such. Unfortunately for Mysterio, he was always fighting against Vince McMahon's biggest pet peeve, being small. Know of any other misused WWE champions? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can even come talk to me about how I used to love Jack Swagger on Twitter at SimonMiller316. I'm Simon from WhatCulture, and I'll chat to you again soon.